Okay, so let's dig into the elephant in the room we're all kind of ignoring right now, the economy. And not in nerd terms, what it means for you, what it means for me, what it means for our standard of living, our purchasing power. And we haven't been talking about this much because we're all doing the exact same thing right now. I'm doing the exact same thing you're doing. We won the election. Everything's good. We're all kind of wincing and cringing every time Joe Biden wakes up in the mornings. We know he's going to do something else terrible, but we're just kind of biding our time until Monday rolls around and we can get Trump in there and finally get some sanity and all that. But we're all doing the same thing. I'm in the exact same boat you are. But the truth is, real people, normal people, are still suffering because of what they've done to the value of the dollar. And it looks like right now that's going to get even worse. You see, inflation is because of government spending and printing, period. End of story. Inflation is because of government spending and printing. I know you already know that, but the norms and normas in the world, they don't. Even if they get mad about the latest spending bill that comes out of Congress, $1 trillion bill, that sucks. They don't put two and two together. That is why you can't afford eggs anymore. Washington spending. And the communists are trying to torch as much as they can possibly torch on the way out the door. Inflation just came in hotter than it should have been, 2.9%. That, of course, is tacked on to the 20% plus inflation we felt over the last 4 years. That's why you used to buy a dozen eggs for $1, and now you're buying a dozen eggs for $6. That's why you can't afford to do basic construction anymore. The cost of living is through the roof in every possible way. Well, congratulations, it's getting worse. It continues to get worse. And what's Joe Biden doing about it? Trying to shore things up on the way out the door and get our fiscal house in order? Of course not. He just announced $2.4 billion in IRS stimmy checks getting sent out to people. Another $2.4 billion we don't have. So yet another dirtball politician can buy the approval of the American people on the way out the door. This is, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to use this word. I hate using this word. Everyone uses this word. Unsustainable. That's what this is. It is unsustainable. And what's so crazy about government spending to me, I've always thought it was so crazy. You've probably heard me ask a question along these lines is, everyone knows it's unsustainable. It's not just like it's you or me. The people who are doing the spending, senators, House of Representatives, presidents, they all know it's unsustainable too because it's basic math. You can't go on like this. You can't spend twice as much as you take in without end. That's not how life works. That's not how economies work. Everybody knows this has to stop, and nobody wants to stop it. I can't stand it. I've used the analogy before. Look, I love my own analogy so much, I'm going to use it again here. We as a country, we've had the biggest party in the world. We rented out the biggest recreation complex you've ever seen. They got go-karts, open bar, yummy pizza, music, and we have just been putting everything on the credit card. Woo, keep the party going. But we know, everyone knows there's a limit on the credit card, and we're all sitting there watching. We have the app on our phone. We're watching as we approach the limit, and nobody wants to turn on the lights, turn off the music, and say, hey guys, it was fun. It's cleanup time. Nobody wants to do it. And everyone knows it needs to be done. And who suffers? We suffer. I'm not worried about the politicians. I'm frankly not worried about Democrats, of course. I'm not really worried about Republicans. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about the American people watching their standard of living go into the toilet. Now, it looks like we have some level of sanity coming in, of course, because Trump has his picks. Scott Bessent came out today. This is what he said.
The federal government has a significant spending problem, driving deficits that have averaged an historically high 7% of GDP during the past 4 years. We must work to get our fiscal house in order and adjust federal domestic discretionary spending that has grown by an astonishing 40% over the past 4 years. Productive investment that grows the economy must be prioritized over wasteful spending that drives inflation. As President Trump has said, we will unleash the American economy by implementing pro-growth regulatory policies, reducing taxes, and unleashing American energy production. For too long, our nation has allowed unfair distortions in the international trading system. President Trump was the first president in modern times to recognize the need to change our trade policy and stand up for American workers. If confirmed, I look forward to working with President Trump and members of this committee to do just that.
Sounds good. We'll see what he can do. I did enjoy him tearing apart Senator Wyden, who's a piece of crap.
Now there is a big effort in the Trump administration to reverse it. I think that's going to be bad for the economy, but it is going to be damn good for China because we are in an arms race on clean energy with them. Are you going to be on the side of people who want to unravel this?
Senator Wyden, just so we can frame this for everyone in the room, China will build 100 new coal plants this year. There is not a clean energy race. There is an energy race.
It's pretty good. It's pretty true. Of course, the communists in this country have told you it's all about the solar panels, but China makes the solar panels. They don't rely on the solar panels. China relies on the coal plants they're putting up. Yeah, one gigantic fleecing of the taxpayer. So we have a mountain to climb, and Congress has to get serious about it. Now, maybe you heard Chip Roy come on this show. It doesn't sound like Congress wants to turn on the lights and turn down the music and stop the party, does it?
My colleagues have their head up their rear right now, and they're about to try to go do a deal with Democrats to pass a monster appropriations package rather than cutting spending and limiting the size and scope of government, which is no way to start things under the Trump administration. We wanted upfront cuts, and in exchange for that, secure the border, defense, and a debt ceiling increase for the president. But our swamp preacher colleagues are rejecting that. And instead, what they're talking about now is the monster big reconciliation package, which won't have the cuts in place that need to be put in place unless we fight for them. And importantly, they're now talking about taking the debt ceiling, probably 4 years and $10 trillion, attaching that to the appropriations package, plus funding for California, and put that all in one great big package, because that's the way swamp creatures think.
Does that sound like these people are going to tackle inflation to you? Doesn't sound like it to me. But Trump's Office of Management and Budget looks to be staffed with some really solid people. Now, most people don't know what that is. In case maybe you're a little fuzzy on it, Mark Paulette, remember, he came on the show and explained what it does.
What it does is it's a sort of tip of the spear, as we viewed ourselves, within the executive office of the president. They set it up so that there is this office that's big enough to help kind of oversee the rest of the other agencies, to help them, make them support the president's agenda. Sometimes you have agencies, right? The State Department, other places that kind of go off track. So they help put together the budget for the president, right? So all the agencies submit their requests and what they want to spend things on and all that kind of stuff. It goes into OMB. Russ is the one in working with those agencies and working with the president and the White House to finalize that budget and make it, the budget that the president presents up to Congress. Then it's actually working with those agencies to make sure that they are implementing it as the year goes along. And there's a lot of power, there's a lot of levers to help make sure that the president's agenda is being implemented at the agency level. And so that's what OMB does by and large.
Okay, so who's this Russ guy? It's Russ Vought, and Russ killed it.
Today, nearly 80% of Americans do not feel confident that their children will lead better lives than they have. That's nearly double the 40% of Americans who said the same just 2 decades ago. When I look at government waste and our national debt, I fear for my daughter's future. Almost half of our fellow citizens expect their standard of living to be worse than that of their parents. We have to use taxpayer dollars wisely, because inflation driven by irresponsible federal spending taxes Americans twice. The average American household has lost roughly 2,000 of purchasing powers just since January 2021. The forgotten men and women of this country, those who work hard every day in cities and towns across this country, deserve a government that empowers them to achieve their dreams.
Sounded pretty good. And we always enjoy it when our sharp people slap around Democrats.
And I'm deeply concerned about reporting that indicates that you designed the plan to abuse the National Emergency Act to circumvent laws passed by Congress by moving military construction money to build the border wall.
We were specifically using the transfer authority that had been provided in the language of the Department of Defense appropriations to be able to transfer that authority to the Army Corps of Engineers for its use on the border wall. It was specifically a transfer authority that Congress had given the president in the underlying appropriation.
You know, you said that OMB was not an agency where you had a bureaucratic problem. But which bureaucracies specifically do you believe have been weaponized?
Again, I'm not going to get into all of the agencies that I believe have some of those characteristics.
Let's give an example of one. I mean,
I think, you know, the Department of Justice is clearly one that has bureaucracies within it that engaged in trying to take out their own president during the first term. The extent to which the FBI goes and investigates someone that comes to a school board meeting in Loudoun County for being concerned about the situation with his daughter and then gets investigated as a domestic terrorist.
Pretty good. All that may have made you uncomfortable, or maybe very comfortable, made me uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.